Alright, here's a quick instructional video on how to make a full face respirator from household items. This thing took me about half an hour to make and it works pretty well. Obviously, if you're having the forethought, you might want to pick up a respirator before you were to need one, but in a pinch, you can definitely make something that will work well in a short amount of time. Like I said, this took me about half an hour. Starting from the mask itself. This is a 1 gallon orange juice bottle, but you can also use any 2 liter or any clear bottle that fits over your face well. So the mask itself is pretty self-explanatory. You just cut a hole in the back part that fits your face. Make sure that the plastic itself is as close to your face as possible. And then what I did from there is I took some packing tape. I taped it around the sides, and then I folded it over, creating this flap seal right here, which helps you get a good, nice, tight seal around the edges of your face, because I had some problems right around in here where air was seeping in, so I made this a little bit longer. So once you get a good seal all the way around, you can make some straps to hold it onto your head. I have a string, but just for the purpose of using as few items as possible, I just went ahead and used tape. So I did the same thing of folding a piece of that boxing tape over on itself to where I have just a flat strap, non-adjustable for the top, that sits around the top of my head, and I made 2 pieces of it that came off the bottom that I tie behind my neck, which holds this thing on my face. A really important part on this one I made is a one-way valve. That way whenever you inhale, you're pulling the air in through the filter, but when you exhale, you don't have to push your moist air, your moist breath, back out through the filter again. It can just escape through this one-way valve. I did that by cutting a small hole in this layer of tape I had to cover up where the carry handle was on this jug, but if you were using a 2 liter, you would just have to cut your own hole, which is fine, it works either way. Anyways, over the small hole inside the mask, I cut a 3/4 inch square of tape that was doubled over on itself, so it wasn't sticky, and then I left the bottom portion open and taped over the top portion. This created a one-way valve to where when air comes out, it opens, but whenever I try to inhale, it sucks it closed. And this is the first time I made one like this, and it worked out really well. Super simple, really easy to make, and it worked pretty well. The most important part on your mask is going to be your filter. I used the cap itself. That way, if you had multiple of these bottles, you'd be able to make multiple filters, so you could switch them out as they got clogged up. But to make this, I just took the cap off of whatever bottle I'm using, and I cut a small hole in it. Remember to not cut this rib, because that's what helps seal the bottle. So stay inside that rib, cut the hole as large as you can, because the bigger hole, the easier time you're going to have breathing through it. And then the next thing is I cut 2 fabric discs. This is just like a medium weight cotton. You don't want it to be like a waterproof fabric, because you won't be able to breathe through that, but then you don't want it to be a really loose knit like a sweater or something, because that won't be able to filter any particulate very well, because it'll be too loose. It'll have too big of a hole in there, so this stuff might get through. What I did basically is cut a small hole in one of the discs by folding it over multiple times, kind of like you would if you were making a paper snowflake, and just snip the end off to make a hole in the center. Then I laid a bead of hot glue around my lid and just pushed it on there. Then a really important step is, before you sew the 2 discs together, on the inside you need to put some type of material to create a space. This is a really cheap bag that some avocados came in. It's a really loose polyester knit material. It's completely porous. There's no way it's going to filter anything, and that's not its purpose. Its purpose is just to hold these 2 discs apart from each other, and by doing that, you're allowing airflow throughout the entire surface area, because if you just sewed these 2 discs together without anything between them, it would suck the bottom disc up through the hole, and you basically only have this one little point of filtration, and you wouldn't be doing anything with the rest of it. So If you make one of these filters and you're having a hard time breathing through it, then you probably used too dense of a stuffing material, or maybe you didn't use enough stuffing material. But this filter by itself is really easy to breathe through, so it causes no issues. That's probably the part that you see lacking on most of these homemade masks, is people's filters aren't very efficient. The nice thing about having the screw on is you can have multiples of these things where you can swap them out. Quick note about swapping these filters out: if you're wearing it and you want to protect yourself still, you'd want to slowly breathe out as you're changing this filter, as to get as little possible contaminated air inside the mask, because there's no check valves here as far as when you take the filter off to keep any other air from getting in. So just take like a deep breath before you're about to change it, and slowly exhale the entire time you're changing out your filter until you have your new filter on. But overall, kind of a fun project, and it worked pretty well.